Pittsburgh coming up for...
Welcome to the Subway Station Podcast, starring B-Dubs and Crocodile.
Do they have subways in Pittsburgh?
I'm not sure.
I mean, last time I was in Pittsburgh, I only took the buses, so I assume they must have subways. It's a pretty big city, but
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you.
So while B-Dubs and Crocodile were talking about subways, I pressed the Go Live button.
No,
Yeah, it
noticed that-
opens in December.
What about December?
Yeah, the 2nd Avenue line opens in December.
Oh, really? Interesting. Oh, just before Christmas? Or during the
Yeah.
holiday season? Hmm.
Welcome to episode 16 of the ToonamiGAF podcast.
We're late this week.
Yeah, we're late. Seda had some things. Hi, Seda.
Hi.
And hello, B-Dubs.
Hello.
Hello, Zonic.
Whoa.
You sound a little muffled there.
This better not be a repeat of last time.
There you go, there you go. That's better.
I remember from all that.
And Crocodile.
Good evening.
Good evening. We have a big episode this week because some crazy shit happened.
Yay.
Yay! And also, there might be live breaking news since we're recording at the same time as the live pre-flight.
I should put that on.
sorry. Interesting.
Well, that happens in a few hours.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
No, the pre-flight should be about now-ish.
Isn't it 8 o'clock Eastern?
Yes,
It's
it's
I thought it was 8 Pacific.
No, that doesn't
No.
sound...
Yeah, because they're based out in Georgia, not in California.
No, San Diego Comic-Con is in it. Aren't they doing it from San Diego?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, so that might be Pacific.
Yeah.
So-
that-
I'll just keep an eye on the thread, and anything notable will be posted there.
So basically, as soon as we're done podcasting here or something, it'll be horribly outdated because something exciting will have been announced or something.
Oh, definitely.
Like, I hope we get Juju, and it's like, Stardust Crusaders, coming October.
I think Jack might be the next big topic for them to discuss. It's
Yeah.
I feel close.
I mean, I know they sent out a tweet teasing it today.
Yeah, Adult Swim basically just said, you know, I'm going to leave this here, and it was a picture of Jack. So
I imagine we have to get the air date today or tomorrow.
yeah, I mean, it's supposed to air this year, and this is like the last big event that they're going to, and this is the type of thing they would announce at a big event. So
Like, we'll get our first look at the actual animation and the air date.
Yeah. We might get a short trailer at least, because, you know, it's a big Comic-Con.
That
Sorry?
feels like on January. That's what it feels like to me.
I feel that way too. But
It's
I mean,
probably January.
although the date will tell us if it's a this year date. The date specifically will tell us what time slot it's going to get.
Yeah, if it's a very early time slot, then
It can air anytime.
yeah.
Looks like Dragon. Sorry.
Sorry, continue on. Continue on.
No.
Let's
Looks
go.
like Dragon Ball Super is, getting its dub teased.
You mean
Like, that was-
really?
Yeah,
Like it-
the guy that does the English voice for Beerus tweeted something out today, and, you know,
No,
it looks
no.
like they're no?
he put something on Instagram, then he deleted it. But before he deleted it, some other person just capped it and tweeted it.
What the hell's the difference between Twitter and Instagram?
Well, the Twitter person, I don't know who that is. It's just some fan who saw it on Instagram and capped it.
No, I never mind.
So what did he say? What did the voice actor say?
It was just a picture of, I think, just a screen from Super.
Yeah.
Episode 1, it's just a close-up of his eye, and he commented, "He's awakened."
And it's pretty clearly meaning, it has the obvious implication is that he's recording for that character.
Or at least they're announced or at least they've told him, hey, we're going to start doing this soon, you know, and here's your check.
Don't we still have Bukai to deal with?
Yeah, apparently that dub has been done for a while, if only because we know they made it for the American audience.
Obviously that's coming later this year. It's like the worst kept secret of all time.
Pretty much.
When is the Cell arc supposed to end? What
A
month?
couple of weeks.
No, the Cell arc ends in like Buu Kai would end in November.
Yeah, something.
Start in November.
Or start.
I mean,
November
I think we have like 19 or 20 episodes left still, so.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot left. So, I mean, whatever's replacing it has got to be, coming. And it's either going to be Buu Kai or Jack.
That would be interesting if they took had a break between Kai and Buu Kai with Jack. Although once again, that puts it over the Christmas dead zone. So.
Yeah.
I mean, Jack's supposed to be 10 episodes, right? So they're probably going to avoid premiering it in a space where it's going to be continuously interrupted by, Thanksgiving and.
Right.
Right.
And we talked about this last week, but if Jack is, for example, One Punch Man's replacement, even at 10 episodes and given assuming no Halloween marathon, it still wouldn't be possible to finish this year.
Unless,
of course, they decided to give it the 11 o'clock slot, which
they would
is
be
also
able to start at any time.
Yeah,
and that not a substitution.
Right, and considering how big a thing this is going to be for them, that's always a possibility. Because it's only going to be 10 episodes. It's not like they're going to keep the spot forever.
And it also feels like something that is kind of a mix. Is not quite Toonami. It's a lot more Adult Swim.
I mean,
right.
Toonami and Adult Swim aren't. I don't really separate them that much in my mind. So, I mean, I guess I'm not sure how they deal with it back in Georgia and whatnot. But I don't really separate it in my mind. I would also say I don't expect Dragon Ball to ever leave the lineup for any reason. So I wouldn't expect Jack to take a spot between Cell Arc and Buu Arc. I would just expect Jack to take a different time slot, be it before Dragon Ball or after Dragon Ball.
I mean, it's not like they have. It's not like they don't have enough Dragon Ball to put on the art on the block. It's like Super's coming soon. I mean, there's what are we on, the second season or third season of it now?
I think
it's like the second bit of non-movie stuff.
Yeah, it's
the second non-movie arc.
Right, which puts it at arc 4.
Yes.
So I mean, even if they're only dubbing the first, super arc now, there's by the time we get around to showing it here, it's they're going to be done and on to the next one.
I mean, honestly, by the time we start showing it, it might be done.
No, they're going to keep that gravy train rolling.
The ratings are going up, and they've been making a lot of merchandising money, so I don't expect it to go off the air anytime soon, barring Toriyama gets by a truck or something, or something.
I mean, they would still continue making it.
Oh, of course.
Okay, sure. I mean, but, I don't expect it to go anywhere. It's doing well, from the metrics I'm aware of.
I mean, even GT had almost 100 episodes, I think, or whatever the hell it was.
64. Yeah, 64 episodes.
Oh, whatever, more than 50.
That's a Brotherhood.
Heck, they might redo that. Oh God, no.
No.
I shouldn't even make that joke.
Do you think Aniplex will do their own Brotherhood dub?
No, I don't think they're not going to waste their money.
Can you watch the dub on Crunchyroll right now? They're using the Funimation dub. They waste some money trying to redub it.
Yeah, it's still on Netflix too.
Is it? Oh, well.
I think so. I haven't checked, but I'm pretty sure it's still there.
I always got the impression that Brotherhood on Netflix was oddly spotty. There was always this 5-episode chunk that wasn't there.
No, it's the last season that's not there. Everything else is still, The
old, too bad, buy the DVD.
Yeah, pretty much. Which kind of sucks now because you can't buy the DVD.
I mean, one can imagine a Brotherhood complete collection at Aniplex prices is take a second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth mortgage out on your house.
Well, I mean, the Funimation said it's out of print, but it's not out of stock everywhere. You can still find it if you're care enough, if you're quick enough and care enough, you can still find it. Eventually, you'll be able to, but
it's not going to be cheap as it was, though. I mean, I got my copy for both seasons were $30 or whatever it was.
Right. But this time you get a neat box and some postcards and Maybe an art book for only $500. I mean, so what a steal.
Well, it's a better deal than the Gurren Lagann series was, because that was 26 episodes for $500.
I mean, at the very least, that box, the actual physical product they put out, looked incredible.
Yeah, it just wasn't worth the money that it cost.
Right. Anyway, that's enough of that.
Do you want to Dragon Ball, or do we want to? Is there more stuff we want to talk about before heading on to Z?
No, I don't think so. Not unless, well, let me check the thread. It hasn't even been posted in since the thing started, so I assume there's no news.
No, we can talk about Bleach.
Maybe later. So the episode was the
Dragon Ball Z Kai episode 78. Cell on the verge of defeat. Krillin destroy Android 18. So the thing with this episode is that there is a path here to make this decision complex. They just don't take it.
Damn you, Krillin's penis.
So I think it was a comment. I think I want to say Kaguri made in the Dragon Ball Super thread, which I browse from time to time. But basically, how Toriyama is not a very good character writer, in the sense that it's
This
kind
is
of
true.
thing you're touching upon, in that there are a lot of avenues in which they could have made this an interesting character-driven decision in terms of made the androids more sympathetic, because Dr. Gero basically kidnapped them and transformed them against their will. That's my understanding, right?
Right.
Or could have shown that these androids were different from the ones from the other future. They didn't really kill anyone. They could have stressed that. They could have built up the 18 Krillin relationship in more than one way besides her saying he was cute once. There are a lot of things they could have done to make this more. You don't necessarily have to go for believability.
Interesting.
But nuanced or
Right.
yeah, I guess is the right
I
word.
mean,
But they
like
did.
the the problem basically comes down to, and Toriyama sort of has the same problem that Kubo does, is that he does fly by the seat of his pants a lot. It's just that when he does it, nobody really notices all that much because it's not a terribly complex series to begin with.
So, sorry. Seda, I think I liked how you put it best.
I don't remember what I said.
You.
I don't remember what I said about this episode because I wasn't there last week.
Oh, that's right. So it must have been H-Town.
I'm always getting them mixed up too.
It was this could have been a great morally complex dilemma about killing someone who was kidnapped and changed against their will, but nope, it's just about Krillin's dick.
Damn you, Krillin's dick.
And it really,
Power owners.
it really is just about Krillin's dick entirely.
The whole ordeal comes across as comical, but not. It doesn't seem like it's supposed to be comical, but that's all
Right.
it is. It's you can't help but laugh at it, and that's not what they were seeming not what it was intended, but just because of how it was constructed, that's what we get.
Right, because Krillin's whole dilemma with this is basically this is my best chance for a girlfriend, but I have to kill her to save the world. I'm like, that's not a hard decision to make, and yet he somehow chooses poorly.
Well, it could be a hard decision to make if someone was a good writer.
Well, if it had been planned earlier on, it would have been interesting, but
I think he had one sentence that he spoke in his head that was along the lines that it's not right to kill her because she's it's not her fault. But it was one sentence, and then the rest of it is just
my balls.
Infatuation, right?
Or you can have it is it really right to kill one person just to save the whole world? Although usually I'd be like, yes.
Yeah, usually.
Well, I mean that's they're always having that conversation though, and it always comes down to let's kill that guy.
Unless they want to get a fight out of it, in which case it's let's just let Dr. Gero do his shit for 2 years while we train.
Yeah,
instead of killing him now.
Yeah, I mean that is the thing. They characters in the show, the protagonists, haven't been afraid to kill before, or even back during Dragon Ball. So
right.
It seems there are series in which the protagonists, like Rurouni Kenshin, after his reformation, where they're I cannot kill. This is a big part of my character or my development or whatever.
Right.
Dragon Ball is not that sort of show. So this dilemma is ultimately made even more out of place here.
I mean, when the dilemma is honestly, worse and less believable than Vegeta letting Cell power up just so he can fight him, which is actually believable.
Well, I mean, that's totally just Vegeta because he thinks he is the hype. This one is entirely down to Krillin's balls just weighing heavy and being like, dude, come on, it's your only chance.
So, Zonic.
Yes.
What are your
you can
thoughts?
speak. He's still here.
What are your thoughts on this episode?
It was fine. I kind of hope we move on from Imperfect Cell, because, man, the second forms of the villains just don't seem to work out.
It is, yeah, it's kind of funny. Like, second form Frieza is like, huh?
I kind of like second form Frieza.
Well, here's the thing. With Frieza, we didn't know that he had a form after that, I don't think, right away.
Right.
I mean, obviously we don't now, because it's,
but I mean, that
because he had like 7.
But like as soon as Cell said at some point, I have a perfect form, he's gonna reach it at some point, right?
Yeah.
Like it's inevitable. So you do kind of feel like there is gonna be some stalling here.
Yeah.
So
sort of come to think of it, I think it would have been a really fun subversion had they decided, okay, we're not going to let Cell reach his perfect form and just sort of wasted him right then and there.
Then.
Like, it would have been a little anticlimactic, but, at the same time, I'm like, oh, okay,
but then
so
the
what
entire audience would have just been in Vegeta's shoes, was like, but what was his perfect form?
It would just be more not fulfilling expectations, like a subversion that's more clever than is good, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah, no. I mean, but, in order to make it work, they'd have to have something else going on there, so, obviously it wouldn't work the way it is, but, in a slightly different Dragon Ball Z, it could have been more interesting that way.
Where his editor gets even more agitated and makes him introduce a new villain?
Well, I mean, more like Hunter x Hunter does something along these lines, but we're not going to talk about that here because we're actually watching it now.
Right. I mean, I guess we wouldn't have talked about it before because it was always the potential, but, whatever.
Yeah. Now
Anyway,
we definitely can't talk about it.
That's enough of Dragon Ball Z Ask Dragon Ball Z. On to what would have been the main show of the night, but, One Piece.
One Punch Man.
One Punch Man, Episode 1, The Strongest Man, Zonic.
Yes.
What do you think about this episode?
Well, I've already seen the series, so I'm doing my best not to hype anything up, so instead I'll just say that the dub sounded pretty good, and it was great choice casting when Viz decided to get Chris Sabat as the Vegeta lookalike, and then furthermore got Papenbrook to voice the Titan. That was just a great.
Is this happening again?
When I heard the Papenbrook thing, when I heard Papenbrook, I was like, is that Papenbrook?
Yeah.
They really pulled out all the stops for this one just to make sure that they got a whole bunch of really good voices.
I think I even made a comment like, "There's no way they got Sabat. He never does anything outside of Funimation." But they made it work, and for good effect.
Either it was Sabat or it was the,
best
basically
imitation ever.
Perfect Sabat imitation ever.
Yeah.
So you're the only one here who hasn't seen the entire series?
I haven't actually watched it, but I've read all the way up to the current sort of webcomic thing, so...
Okay, so even beyond the Garo arc, then?
Yeah.
And, of course, Seda hasn't seen it.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
But what did you guys think of Saitama? Just, throwing that out there, like...
I mean, so far, he basically was as he was billed to be, bored, like a bored superhero that's super strong. I mean, there really isn't much depth to it yet. I wouldn't expect there to be much depth to it yet. So.
Right.
Well, I think it's more beyond boredom and I think maybe this becomes more clear in future episodes, like borderline clinical depression, like
there's nothing that challenges him anymore, so there's no point in really trying. which sort of makes for a couple of interesting moments later on because, you know, he actually might need to try it at some point.
I mean, the dream sequence, I mean, it's a dream sequence, so some people are like, But, well, first off, it wasn't the ending to the show, which is usually where that goes really wrong. But it was basically a perfect, you know, demonstration of, you know, what he wants and what he actually has.
Well, I certainly think the character is kind of I haven't really encountered a lot of like protagonists who are just so like kind of obviously depressed, but like don't come off as like whiny and like insufferable, but you kind of somewhat sympathize with them. I wouldn't necessarily call them like relatable necessarily, but again, it's like you can buy his kind of situation. It doesn't feel like one of those anime protagonists where like, oh my god, how do you like even like get out of bed at the day? Like you're just I can't, you know.
Yeah.
Watch. He's not like that. So I think that was I guess I don't maybe this trope I think is a example of this being executed well.
Yeah, because sometimes you get those characters who are like depressed and you know they don't care about anything, but they really don't have any good reason for it. They're just kind of that's what they are, just so they can be that. Like they're just written to be emo or whatever, and that's what they are.
Right.
But this character, it seems like we also got to see him kind of a before and after type of deal, so we kind of know that you know this isn't his like normal mode of operation. Well, I mean it is now, but like we saw him before he was a superhero, so we know that he has some other character to him somewhere.
It's just that he can't be bothered with anything now because
I guess
what the hell is there to challenge him?
I feel like this is the wrong type of show to have this sort of analysis or whatever, but like
Probably.
On the other hand, it's good that this analysis can be had.
No, I'm not even talking about the depression. I'm not. Well, that too, but before, it's you know it's hard to take anything like super seriously with the show so far. Although I've only seen one episode, but like when he kind of got that decision to be a hero, I kind of felt like he wanted to do it so he could because he did it to protect that child. Like so he wanted to be a protector and whatnot. Although he did say he wanted to be a hero since he was a kid, so you know maybe it's a little bit more.
Every kid wants to be a hero.
Maybe a little bit more juvenile than that. But like now, as Saitama, the One Punch Man, he doesn't seem like he cares too much about protecting people, you know, because he seems to have, you know, a little bit of collateral damage and things like that. So.
Well, I mean, I think he does still, you know, care about protecting people. Otherwise, why the hell get out of bed in the morning? But I mean, at the same time, I don't think he's really bothered to like rush because he sort of knows that, you know, oh, whatever's going on, I'll just wipe it up in 30 seconds and like problem solved.
Yeah, and he also said something like, no matter what he does, these calamities or whatever keep coming. So it's like he doesn't even make a difference despite all that. So.
Right.
I will say that they kind of touch upon a little more Saitama's motivations, both in kind of like the present and touching about a little more in the past in future episodes. I won't say what happens, but they come back to this topic again in the future. So I'll just say that. So,
Zonic, is the opening theme for this show the best thing ever or what?
Hell yes. But it's going to suck when it gets shortened next week.
Oh, please, no.
Only Jordan's to get shortened.
That'd be nice.
I think this song might be one of the and I guess every big anime that has kind of like that has a good opening song gets kind of covered a lot. But the One Punch Man theme has been like covered so many times in so many languages and been hit so many times. Like if you search on YouTube, you can just find so many different covers, especially in English. But like and some of them have like millions of hits. But it's kind of like the next Attack on Titan opening, in which terms like everybody knows about it, everybody loves it. So it's a big hit. I'll just say that.
I love the visuals in the opening. So my favorite segment visually is it's the part with the star guy. He's just a smiling star guy in like his underwear or whatever. He's got a knife and he's just like, "Hey, buddy!" And Saitama's just like, "Ah!"
I like the visual Easter egg where I think when the screen flashes to One Punch Man over the world, if you look closely, you can see his head like over the world in like one frame. If you look at it really closely, I think that might be my favorite visual image. There's also actually the I don't think they touched upon it in the first episode, but in future episodes they touch about the danger levels. There's like
yeah, they have that.
Oh, yes. No, go ahead. Go ahead. I was just agreeing.
Yes, I think I'm trying to remember. It's like dragon. It was like tiger, dragon, demon, and like
God.
Phoenix.
Yeah, it goes up to like God.
God is the highest level threat.
And you can see those in increasing order near the beginning of the opening theme with like kind of shots of like Chinese or Japanese renditions of these figures, and that's kind of another interesting touch as well. There's a lot to look at in the opening to kind of dissect it. There's a lot.
Yeah.
In fact, there is a Mother's Basement video which does exactly that, which I will probably have to link to eventually.
Yeah, I was actually about to mention that, but you saved me the time, I suppose. But yes. It has been analyzed on the internet, and you can go look it up if you're interested in learning more.
It's also funny that the Saitama in the opening is nothing like the Saitama in the show.
Oh,
He's
right.
this stoic, hardened badass.
Well, I mean, yeah, you have to make the show look good. I mean, if you have the Saitama from the show in the opening and just be him picking his nose and, like, getting cabbage from the supermarket, he'd be doing nothing else.
They do make that contrast in the actual series in terms of, like, goofy, like, egg-shaped head Saitama versus, like, serious mode, all serious. Like, he has moves called, like, the serious series. Like, I mean,
that's my
shit. That dichotomy is kind of inherent in the show overall.
Right.
So I don't think it's unfair for them to like show that in an opening. Of course, that's not that is not what the show's all about. But I don't think it's necessarily false advertising for them to kind of show that either, because that dichotomy is part of the appeal and kind of the base of the show.
Like, definitely.
Yeah, Saitama has, derp face, which is this completely flat colors, the straight wide eyes, no shading, and then he has the serious face where it's like, ah!
He spends most of his time in derp face, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the ending to the show is not good.
I wouldn't say it's not good. I would just say it's unremarkable.
Compared to the opening, definitely.
I would call it shiny, but shiny is for, like, if that opening was following, like, Black Lagoon or something, that would be shiny.
Shiny is more obnoxiously upbeat. I'll just say this more like
Shiny was completely out of place.
Intentionally out of place, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's just a complete mood whiplash in contrast to what we saw in the actual episode.
What the hell's going on with your mic?
Is a tornado land by you, Zonic, or something?
No.
Are you using your phone, Zonic?
Yes.
I heard a dog.
Yes.
Every episode with Zonic is an adventure, right, Zonic?
A bizarre adventure, you might say.
At least you can hear him speak this time.
Yes.
We're doing better than last time.
Just try to keep your phone still. I think.
Yeah, all right.
Sorry.
So I guess is there anything else we want to say about One Punch Man besides that it's funny and hype?
Yes,
and
the
awesome?
animation in this episode.
You mean in all the episodes? Well, not episodes. Some of them are better animated than others, but this is certainly a highlight.
It's especially the first and the last episode.
I mean, there are other episodes that stand out. I think 5 and 6 are kind of like more fantastic in terms of animation, but I would say more than just 1 and 12 hit it out of the park. But those are certainly like holy shit.
Right, and if they ever do a season 2, that one's gonna just be out of the park. It's gonna be awesome.
Coming to you in 2019, probably, at the pace things are going.
Coming to you never, because Murata's kind of doing whatever.
Well, I mean, they can do it without him because they have the material already done. He's just redoing the art and adding in filler.
I think
all of his work, though, like his art and his panels and whatnot, like because Murata also has done animation. Like he's both manga author or artist and an animator. So like, I feel like they wouldn't move without him being complete because they base a lot of their animation work, or at least they have, based off his kind of storyboards and stuff like that. So
Right. But at the same time, if it's making him that much money and, he's moving this slowly, at some point they're just going to go, all right, screw it, we're going to, go ahead. Because right now he's in the middle of a filler arc that, is pretty much doing nothing, and,
He's just showing off.
yeah, pretty much.
But would all of the Garo arc fit within another 12 episode season, or would that
Yeah,
need more time or less time, or?
I think it fit in 12 episodes, maybe 13.
But also, I guess depends on what the those animators are doing, because it was a very specific team that did One Punch Man and anime, and if you don't get them back together, it's kind of like a waste of everyone's
There's no
time.
point. Yeah.
Right.
And they're all freelancers, so like who knows where they are right now. I mean, I know. Well, no, not even the director. Yeah, the director worked at Bones for Space Dandy. He was the head director under Watanabe, and then he worked at Madhouse for One Punch Man.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know where he is right now, but it's clear him and his contacts kind of roam around, so to speak, wandering animators. So.
Right.
Hey! Crush that guy on your shoulder! Oh no, not that guy! Okay.
I mean, that was funny in context, but I don't know. That didn't really do much right there.
No. Okay.
So
Gundam?
Iron Blood Orphans, or
Gundam? Episode 6? As for them? Okay, so I saw, people either thought this episode was great character development, or it was like nothing happened.
It was
none of
both.
explosions for some people.
Some people thought it was all politics, and I was tuning out when they were like, blah blah blah, Arbrow, blah blah blah, Crisei Autonomous Region, blah blah blah, Jupiter Sphere, blah blah blah. But
Has there been a Gundam series where the politics didn't suck because either too simplistic or too heavy-handed, or just exposition dumps or anything of that sort? I can't think of a good Gundam series with like really, really good politics.
G Gundam.
Yeah.
all the politics are punched in the face.
Yeah, exactly.
But man,
Well, I
imagine took like the 2016 U.S. politics and I don't even know how that worked. That would just be.
That would be G Gundam, actually.
The final mech in that series would just be Donald Trump's head, like the Statue of Liberty head from Space Dandy. It would just be Donald Trump's head in that exact same style. Ball gag and everything.
Oh Jesus!
His hair would come off and transform into a Gundam.
I was thinking they'd just put it on top of the Dark Gundam like a shitty copy paste job, but that works.
So Seda,
Yep.
thoughts?
So I watched this episode on my own, not with a thread. And honestly, I didn't find it to be a political episode at all. They basically said they need help from a Jupiter Mafia group, and that's it. And then later in an elevator, basically Cordelia said Earth is in 4 different, basically groups, and she basically made a deal with the head of one of those groups, Arbrow, to meet with him, which we basically already knew. So that was it. I mean, so I didn't really find it to be a political episode at all. I mean, I'm being honest.
When the politics comes up in this show, I'm still confused because it's like, okay, so I understand the the 4 economic blocks, right? But then I don't understand exactly what Gjallarhorn is, or
yeah, I still don't understand exactly what Gjallarhorn is. It also seems like Mars is under the jurisdiction of one of those blocks, but not all of them.
I think it might actually be that different parts of Mars are split up, because they mentioned the Crisei Autonomous Region, and it's like, what the fuck is that?
Well, that's just part of. That's not one of the 4. That's not one of the 4 economic blocks. That's just basically Mars.
No, but I think is that the name of the one that's under Arbrow's control?
Yeah.
Oh, who can tell?
Who the fuck knows?
one of the weirdest things to me about so many of these series that take place in like a near future Earth or like Earth 200, 300 years from now is that like a lot of the kind of ways the like blocks or factions or whatever term you want to use end up being divvied up make no real sense, and there's no way you can kind of like logically derive how you got from here to like I guess present Earth. Now, granted, I guess if you like were time traveled from like 1500 and came to Earth now, you'd probably be like, how the hell did we get here in terms of like how everything's divvied up?
Yeah,
I'm
pretty
sure
much.
you'd be confused, but I guess it would be nice if some series that was clearly based on like our Earth, but like X hundred years in the future, if they could at least make the transition from the present we know now to this future make some sort of sense, or you could be like, oh, I could see how that could have ended up happening. You know,
Well, I mean, there's usually a couple of world wars in between there or something, like there's like usually like 3 extra world wars and an intergalactic war and hydrogen bombs and
other like somehow.
Gundam politics, the rule is generally, okay, let's just take Earth politics circa when Prussia was a thing.
yes, pretty much. Which sort of stretches back to G Gundam because it did feel very sort of World War One-ish in how it approached everything. Not G Wing, Gundam Wing.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, because I mean, like I remember watching Endless Waltz and thinking, this isn't really modern times. This feels a lot more like pre-World War One fanfic with robots in it than anything else.
Trenched. Nobody. Okay, nobody remembers that game existed. So there were character moments in this episode.
Yes, there were.
Yes, I just can't specifically remember any of them.
I would say the highlight, or at least the one that kind of struck with me when I first watched this episode back a couple months ago, and then of course struck me again when I rewatched it in English here, was the kind of history between Mika and Orga. Basically, how Orga's, I guess, modus operandi is like, what do I do so Mika doesn't kill me in my sleep, kind of thing. Which is, I'm being a little hyperbolic, but obviously their relationship isn't like that dysfunctional or even necessarily dysfunctional. It's more like, Mika places complete faith in Orga, like Orga's the brains, Mika's the body or muscle, so to speak, and they kind of have this weird kind of like like they both kind of rely on each other because one fills in the holes the other has kind of way. But it was certainly like kind of pretty intense, kind of like, normally when you have friends, it's not like, oh, this guy, my underling, like scares the shit out of me, so I make sure I keep my beak clean because I know he'll fuck me up if I'm not careful. Kind of.
Right.
That's not a common relationship. It's still like a loving relationship, but that's still kind of like there's a not necessarily
undercurrent there.
Intensity to it that's not really found in a lot of other relationships. Even in fiction, I don't think I've seen a lot. Maybe I just haven't read enough books or I guess something. It's not something I've really come across very often. That sort of like intense interdependent relationship.
I think
it happens a bit in like anime, but that's really the only place I've ever seen it.
He's really kind of like, I guess I haven't, failed Mikazuki's trust yet, and I don't want to fucking see what it looks like when I do.
Which other anime has this sort of relationship? It seems like you have something in mind.
Honestly, I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm like, honestly, I can think of things that sort of approximate sort of like them the two characters filling in the gaps for each other, but that's really about it. Like the early episodes of Gurren Lagann,
Okay.
Kamino was he was like the one pushing them all forward, and Simon was the one making sure that they could make it work, and neither one really worked without the other.
Right. That sort of relationship I think is not uncommon. But I was more to the whole like intensity, how it's kind of intense, quote unquote, it felt. In terms of like, I'm doing this stuff because if I don't, my friend might kill me, kind of thing. Which is not what he said, but
right. What the hell was that?
Yeah.
Hello?
So never said that, but he sort of implied it, which is not
Right.
something you see a lot.
No, I mean, you see the sort of thing where it's like, oh, I love this guy a lot, so I don't want to disappoint him. But, I mean, nothing like that dark, I think.
So
Now I'm going to be thinking about this for, like, the next month. And, like, a month from now, I'm going to have the answer to, like, that, but no one's going to remember the question.
that's so philosophical. It's like, I found the answer, but I forgot the question.
That sounds
I'm
like
just
a Velociraptor like image or something.
No, that's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. They have the answer, but they don't know what the question is.
Kids get
And
taught how to learn how to read in this episode.
that they do. Which was weird. I'm like, okay, we're going to teach them how to read now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think it's uncommon for child soldiers in real life to not know how to read.
No,
Their,
it's not uncommon.
whatever their native language is, but
No, yeah, I know, but it like while I was sitting there and I was watching, I couldn't help but think, at some point this guy's probably going to get smart enough, and this is going to be the thing that sort of takes them apart. Where he doesn't need the other guy anymore. Like, I just can't be bothered to keep the names straight.
you mean you think that Miko will become less dependent on Orga once he learns how to read?
Well, I mean, not only to read, but once, he's going to be learning more than just how to read. He's going to be, like, reading stuff and learning about things out in space. And I just feel like that's sort of going to drive a wedge between the relationship of the two at some point.
Have you seen the series before?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay.
I know nothing about this series. I just feel like if I were going to do it, and I wanted to get some interpersonal drama between these two, that's how I'd do it.
Zonic,
Yes.
any thoughts?
I pretty much have to agree with you guys. I understand this was meant to be a slower episode after last week's space battle, so we just needed time to get a breather, let the characters just interact and such, but at the same time, I was like, this is not working for me personally. I don't think it's a bad show by any means. It's just more talkative shows that are more plot, go deeper with its plot, tend to take longer for me to fully appreciate. If that makes sense.
This is a Gundam show that, for better or worse, doesn't feel like it has to have a fight every episode, so...
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. Also, Caldelia's maid, she seems like she's going to be a double agent.
Yeah, it's like, hey, here's this really specific thing that Gjallarhorn runs. If only we could tap into it. And here I'm random maid. I know exactly how to do that. Leave it to me.
That's
Nothing
totally
suspicious here.
just nope. I feel like this show is just really bad at telegraphing like twists. It just feels like we always see it coming. Like, we knew Hitler mustache guy was no good, and now this screams like, oh, I'm horribly suspicious.
I mean, Hitler mustache makes this look subtle.
It really does. Does anyone else have anything?
Wait, so is it just me and Gregson who have seen the series in completion or in
I've
think
only
so.
seen half of the first season.
Oh, so it's
I
literally.
haven't seen it.
Oh, have you seen it all, Sonic?
Nope.
Oh,
Zeta?
okay.
No, what am I thinking?
Did you has Sega seen thing? That is not Naruto Shippuden for some godforsaken reason. It's always no, right?
And here comes the shocker.
So,
All right, so we're ready to move on to Hunter x Hunter then.
Hunter x Hunter.
I think so.
Hunter x Hunter episode 12, Final Test of Resolve. So they didn't actually spend an entire episode waiting in a room for 50 hours. They spent half of an episode waiting in a room for 50 hours.
Right. Which is, like, massively expanded from the actual chapter where they spent, like, 5 panels waiting in a room for 50 hours.
Well, I mean, that's the difference between pacing in a TV show versus
Yeah.
manga. You just sometimes have to fill time or stretch time or,
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah, they just wanted to get the ending in the same spot is all.
So, quick question. For the Hunter x Hunter team, or I guess Gon's team, they had to do the whole majority rule thing. But that
Yeah.
was only them, not other groups of people. Because I saw like Hisoka and the ninja and a few other guys pretty much came by themselves. So every
Well,
different group had different challenges throughout the tower.
Looks like
yeah,
it.
Yeah.
I believe that's how it worked. It's just that, most of these challenges are incredibly deadly, so people die. You
So
know?
is it everyone had teams and just only some people survived, or just rather Gon and his team had to have that team challenge, and other people had solo challenges? Because depending where you enter in the tower, what you face is completely different.
I'm pretty sure that they all had to deal with the team challenges and whatnot, but I'm pretty sure Hisoka just killed his team. And because he doesn't really seem like the kind of guy that would bother with, majority rules.
I don't think that I certainly didn't all do majority rule because we saw Hisoka and it was nothing to do with that. But I'm also pretty certain that not all of them had team stuff. I'm fairly sure some of them had individual stuff.
Well, who knows?
I guess it's not important now. I was just curious. So yeah,
Yeah,
does Tonefall is he going to stick around for long? Because he's kind of wearing out his welcome.
I don't think
No,
so. I think he's just a Hunter exam art character.
yeah, he was just there for basically this challenge. I'm not sure he goes much further after this.
Like, I actually think he, once he realizes, hey, it's this part of the exam, he just quits.
Yeah, he's just out.
At the point where he can no longer get by without dying.
Oh yeah, people really don't seem to give a shit that people just die during this exam.
No, it's pretty much, under the rug.
So we've completely, the waiting in a room part, there was basically nothing going on there that we didn't already know. So it was the second half of the episode that was interesting.
Did they have a toilet in that room that they sat in for 2 days?
There had to be one off screen. Or it's like, welcome to the Hunter exam. You better be able to hold it.
Well, you
No one
can't
can hold it.
Your body just doesn't let you.
I bet Hisoka could do it.
He can do anything.
Yeah, that was so yeah. When you realize that they were actually spending 2 days in that small room for that many people, that's kind of like a Jesus, And then the other group was just Hisoka ended his run in 10 hours. So
Yeah, and then a whole bunch of other people were waiting at the base for a long time as well.
So yeah, there's people waiting in that room for days. That's kind of absurd.
Well, I mean, I'm sure they had a bathroom or something there for them. And I mean, Hisoka is of course he finished quickly because, I mean, we're going to find out later why. But,
So, Seda, any thoughts on the second half of the episode?
Not really.
No, it was just pretty standard.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it an eventful episode, though the kind of solution at the end was somewhat clever. It's not necessarily what I would have exactly expected. But besides that,
some people were wondering if that was an intended solution. I feel like it kind of had to be because usually you can't break down brick walls with weapons.
well, I mean, I'll go
Outside
ahead.
of a pickaxe. But they were using axes and swords. And it was that doesn't make much sense. I think those walls are intentionally soft.
I mean, honestly, the way it is structured, you got to also have to remember that, these tests are designed to winnow down the number of people. They don't want all 5 of them getting through. So, it could be, they were just really clever about it.
but I mean, you're not always going to have teams of 5 that reach that point anyway, right? So
Right.
what was if you had 2 people who came to that point? They just
Well, then,
figure out the other solution.
well, then they're probably just fine. I think at that point they just want to make sure that all 5 don't get through, or if all 5 do get through, that it's, they don't have an easy time of it.
Or actually, if you just had 2, you could just both hit the easy route, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess whatever, but.
Well, I mean, all 5 of them could have gone through if they hadn't lost those 50 hours.
Sure, that's true.
Huh?
So the next arc is what? Is that like some kind of tournament arc? That's kind of sense of. Oh, he said that at the end, didn't he? Right? He said next arc would be one-on-one battles or something.
The next arc is the next challenge is a little more complicated than just one-on-one battles. We'll get to one-on-one battles later, but the next one is this.
Also, Forest of Death.
Yeah.
Another forest.
Actually, it really is the Forest of Death. Wow, Kishi really did just copy Hunter x Hunter just like wholesale.
So the running through the forest segment of the exam was the everything in nature is trying to kill you part of the Forest of Death, and the next part of the exam is the actual try to take each other's stuff part of the Forest of Death.
Right.
How many more episodes are in this Hunter exam arc?
Depends on where you end the exam.
Excuse me?
I guess it's kind of nebulous.
It depends on technically where you feel the exam ends. If it ends when they get the license, yeah, but, as with all things, it can be a little more complicated.
Like there's a small filler arc between Hunter exam and the next big arc or something?
Something like that?
I say filler.
Not really. It's just the arcs in Hunter x Hunter don't begin and end sort of when you expect them to.
Right.
Like this one began sort of when you expect it to, but it doesn't really end where you think it's going to end. The next arc doesn't begin where you think it's going to begin. It doesn't end where you think it's going to end. Heck, the next arc isn't the arc you thought you were getting in the beginning of it.
Okay, can I jump in here? Sorry, I was a little bit occupied, if maybe you could tell. But so
go ahead.
This episode, I think I said last week that I'd be totally fine with them spending 50 hours in a room if they introduce some, backstory, world building, character interaction, something. But then I realized apparently this isn't in the manga at all, and this literal 50 hours of waiting was just skipped over.
Right.
Am I right? So basically, it really was just waiting, and nothing was introduced. It was just kind of some shenanigans, a pillow fight, and it just kind of felt like it was pointless. But I think it was Crocodile who said just they had to fill the time with something to kind of get the episode to end where they wanted it to end. Maybe B-Dub said that. I'm going to jump back even further to the Gundam episode. Even though in a sense nothing happened, we got some more character basically movement on the Gallarhorn side with Ein and Galio and whoever else, Major McGillis. We got some lore backstory with the Calamity War, although that's not necessarily unique to this Gundam show, but they at least introduced it. Mm-hmm. And then we got some character interactions between Orca and Miga.
What show are we talking about here?
I'm talking about Gundam. I jump back. Basically, I'm contrasting the two. That the Gundam episode was an episode where nothing really happened, but it was still full of a lot of events, like character interactions and plot, world building and development and things like that. Where this Hunter x Hunter episode was lacking basically any of that. So there's a little bit at the end with kind of this trick. Solution that Gon came up with, which I actually think is totally fine. But otherwise, it was just kind of like a filler for an episode. It literally is. So.
Right. Yeah.
Now the next episode is a recap, I guess.
Oh God damn it!
That just seems so weird. That just seems so weird to me. I guess the reasoning for a recap, I think we talked about this last time, was that
they changed time slots.
Changing time slots, or maybe they had 12 episodes or whatever.
They changed time slots because they couldn't get away with it in the slot they were originally in.
Are you sure about that, or is that just a guess?
No, I'm pretty sure that's what it was. I seem to remember them switching time slots at one point because they just gave up on censoring
as soon as they realize that Killua can rip hearts out, like, yeah, we should
No,
not
no,
do
I
it.
get.
We should go later.
Yeah, no, it gets worse than that.
I figure.
Like in the next arc specifically, it's like they would not know how to deal with that if they had to censor it too much.
Now, I know, like, I'm probably the only person who hasn't seen this other than maybe Zonic or Crocodile, maybe. Has Crocodile seen this or no?
Seeing Hunter x Hunter?
Hunter x Hunter, yeah.
No, I'm aware of a few things due to just cultural osmosis, but I'm watching this mostly for the first time.
Yeah.
I
What
just read it.
What about Zonic?
Nope, first time here too. I only know that existed thanks to crossovers like the Shonen Jump games.
Yeah, but I would say at this point, I am kind of, like, we're 12 episodes in, I kind of feel like it is very, I probably have said this before, but it does feel pretty bog standard so far. Like,
Hmm.
You want to get on with it, basically.
like I know that there's still a lot left, and like 12 episodes out of 150 or whatever is just a small percentage, but I kind of feel like I am starting to lose interest in a sense. Like, it just, it doesn't seem to have any unique hook to it yet to make me keep interested. But I do get a little bit of allowance knowing that we're still relatively early on. So
Right.
Yeah, it's a long running shonen, and it's working on a long running shonen timescale.
like I know, like,
Right.
the first, the One Piece doesn't really get going for 40 episodes or whatever. So
Right.
I know
The
obviously
first-
this is a lot shorter than that, this whole series. So I don't expect it to
Right.
take that long. But I know sometimes it just takes some time to really get going. But I will say at this point, I'm not totally sold on it. But I know there's still a lot to go.
Right. It doesn't really. The series itself doesn't really jumpstart until after the Hunter exam is over, and they can actually enter the larger world, and we start entering the world building and sort of everything else that's going on out there. Because as of right now, it's just sort of solely focused on getting these people to be hunters, and then it'll just expand exponentially on all fronts from there.
So yeah, that was Hunter x Hunter.
So yeah, I guess
Moving on.
we have similar sentiments in the sense that, like, I'm not necessarily bored by what I'm seeing, but I definitely want to get on to, like, what I feel are likely much greener pastures.
Right.
So, Naruto shipping in episode 119, Kakashi Chronicles, A Boy's Life on the Battlefield, Part 1. Hey, we can actually talk about Naruto in a semi-positive light.
Huzzah.
Right?
Yeah.
It was...
This was not horrible.
No,
It wasn't. There is a couple of issues with it, but it was not the crater that Naruto has been, like, for
Well,
the
the
last
first
month.
issue is that no matter what team it is, that the woman on the team is just like, oh, I got punched and kidnapped.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're basically
Well, I mean-
XPs of Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura, down to their basically competency and somewhat their worldviews. It's kind of unfortunate that I feel, and this comes up multiple times, I think, that a lot of kind of archetypes and general character sentiments or personalities are recycled in the series. I'm not sure if that's so much due to Kishimoto's lack of creativity, or more to that he just wanted to be repetitive because he thought he was making kind of a strong narrative emphasis, but
Yeah,
it doesn't
that's-
come off that way. It just comes off kind of.
Lazy.
I feel like the similarities are definitely intentional.
Yeah, it's
Down
just
to
too
the irony of
heavy-handed.
this group's Naruto being a Uchiha.
I think there are some connections that are more obvious than others. Like, for example, Naruto and young Jiraiya are basically identical.
I mean
I think that's a little bit stronger of a connection than, like, Naruto and Obito, if that's the connection you're
Right.
making. But I mean, I agree, but I think, like, it's not like they're exactly fully totally recycled. I think it's just kind of some ties here and there.
Yeah, he's trying to do a thematic thing. It does feel a little heavy-handed at times. And if you've seen the whole thing, it's like you sort of lose patience for any of it, even when it's like, oh, okay, that's pretty well done, because you remember getting getting clubbed in the back of the head with it, 100 episodes down the line, and
Okay, so here's something that I am honestly not really sure what I think, and maybe discussion will make me solidify one way or the other. So the end of the episode, Kakashi is basically discussing, we follow the rule, we do not save Reen, we basically go on to complete the mission because, according to his, thoughts, or what Obito calls his theory, that would actually be the best way to go about it. Although we see that's not how modern Kakashi thinks. So it's kind of an obvious. Right. So it's like when they're showing Kakashi being so rule-laden and things like that, we know that's not how he thinks normally. That was Kakashi's first lesson, literally. So we kind of get the impression that that's supposed to be the wrong way to think, in a sense.
Right.
But I think it's also that what he was saying wasn't totally nonsense. Like he had a point in terms of we can't save one person if we can complete the mission and stop the war. That's worth it, type of thing.
Right.
But then Obito, of course, is like, no, we save the person. That's the most important thing. And I kind of felt like maybe if Kishimoto's point was to try to make neither side ideal, but just kind of two opposing viewpoints, I think maybe that actually wasn't done too terribly, because I think they're good. There's pros and cons to both viewpoints, even if both the characters were kind of so stubborn one way or the other. So there wasn't an obvious person like, well, Kakashi's right, Obito's wrong, or Obito is right, Kakashi is wrong. I kind of felt like it was a little bit, the balance there was actually decent. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, I don't know. It felt obvious to me that Obito was right, especially knowing what we know about Kakashi in the future. I think it's obvious to me that Obito is supposed to be the one in the right. And I'm only kind of vaguely aware of what happens next. I think everyone's already seen what happens next, right?
Right.
So
Except
my
Sonic.
understanding
Sonic doesn't watch this.
No, he doesn't watch this at all.
Sonic is off making a sandwich, right?
No, yes.
You didn't ever. Oh, he's back.
He's not sitting there listening to a thing he doesn't care about, right?
Right. No.
So my understanding is that I may be wrong, but my understanding is that so Obito tries to go rescue Rin, then Kakashi goes help him. They rescue her, but like a boulder falls on Obito and supposedly kills him, but he transfers his eye to Kakashi, who got his eye cut during the rescue operation. That's basically what happens, right?
That's basically the next episode, yes.
Right. With
I haven't seen the next episode, but it's kind of the cultural osmosis I'm talking about in terms of I've heard things. So kind of knowing how things play out and knowing modern day Kakashi and so on and so forth, it feels obvious to me, and especially this being a shonen, so it's like a kids manga, so let's keep everything simple and non-nuanced.
Right.
It's obvious to me that Obito is the one who's supposed to be right, and Kashi is the one who's supposed to be wrong. Basically, power, friendship, never sacrifice your friends.
Especially when Kakashi, one of Kakashi's first statements to Naruto is, Shinobi who
abandoned their
friends are scum, and then they literally, he's like, oh, he stole that phrase from Obito. That's where he got it from.
Who kind of got it from Kakashi's dad.
All I was saying was Kakashi being, saying that I think there was some logic to what he was saying, like if we complete the mission, then more people will be saved. So it wasn't obvious, I'm the villain and you're the good guy, or I'm wrong, you're right. Even though obviously I think Crocodile is right in saying that Obito is supposed to be the more sympathetic one here. But,
I mean, I definitely agree with Crocodile in that, also because we're sort of shown that Kakashi is having that viewpoint because of what happened to his dad, who did take more after Obito, save your friend over the mission.
I actually totally forgot about this little dad, what happened with Kakashi's dad. I feel like this is something that probably shouldn't have been crunched into literally a 60-second backstory monologue. It's just...
Yeah, I mean, even in the manga, it was, only a very short thing. It never really gets that much play in the series, even though I kind of wish it did.
It kind of feels, to me, it kind of feels a little bit unbelievable. like he was really vilified that much? Like, did he make a huge mistake?
Like
I
he
mean,
was.
maybe it was like a huge mission, and like they let the president get assassinated or something, and,
Like all we know is that if he completed the mission, the war would have ended. But because he saved a friend, it didn't. So maybe like there was some big like event afterwards that could have been prevented, but he didn't because he was in a sense selfish or
Right.
something.
Like
Or maybe
the failure of the mission had severe geopolitical consequences, basically.
right, like maybe it was like if he had done this, World War I would have ended like 4 years early, but then it kept going.
Yeah, but the thing is though, like, and I feel like I mentioned this in thread that I agree with Sarah in terms of like this stretched my suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
But I feel like if the stakes were so high that I was like, okay, we destroyed aliens, or we saved the galaxy, or World War X ends or something, I don't think most people are going to be like, I'll save 3 people to not save the world. Even like it's like if I feel if the mission was so big that not completing it would be so disastrous. I feel like it's a little unbelievable that he wouldn't go through with the mission. But if it was anything short of that, that him saving his basically his colleagues and his fellow soldiers would be the more logical thing to do in terms of like, of course, in real world situations, you're gonna face these sorts of decisions, and sometimes some generals or soldiers or whatever have decided to save their comrades and their soldiers, and some have decided to press on for the mission, even incurring heavy casualties. There's definitely pros and cons to both sides, and they both have their kind of drawbacks and
Right.
benefits. And
Also in typical Naruto narrative fashion, they introduce this flashback, and then like literally like in the next scene they kind of call back to it to tie it to the current event. Obviously I know this whole episode is a flashback, but like
Right.
they introduce this element of this flashback scene, and then they kind of bring it in right away. It kind of feels like that's pretty poor storytelling to have this introduced so quickly like that. Well, specifically what I'm talking about is to save a friend or not to save a friend, and then in the current situation, it's now to save a friend or not to save a friend. It's kind of pretty
Right.
blunt in how they do that.
yeah, nothing
Yeah.
about subtle, nothing at all.
No,
Yeah.
it's all like getting clubbed in the back of the head with like a tree branch.
Like, oh, Kakashi doesn't want to make the same mistake his father did that we just learned about like a minute ago.
But his father made the right mistake, so now Kakashi's going to learn the power of friendship.
Did they mention Kashi's father earlier in the series, like in part 1?
No, I don't think so.
I think all they mentioned is that he was,
Awesome.
a famed ninja, and he died. Like we knew he was dead, but we didn't know
See,
why.
I think they could have, if he was a more competent writer, he could have introduced this plot point way earlier, so that they wouldn't have to flashback in this flashback, or maybe they could elaborate on something we already knew about.
Yeah, like maybe they could have introduced earlier. Sorry to interrupt you, but maybe they could have introduced earlier that he was like a disgraced ninja, and now we learn why or
Yeah,
something.
like
Yeah.
that.
We didn't know that.
Or, I mean, even at least in the beginning of the episode, instead of, 30 seconds before we actually get clubbed over the head with it.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to straining my suspension of disbelief, like what happened with Kakashi's father, the other thing is that just the fact that Kakashi was given a leadership role, like it's obvious he's very skilled, but he does not have the mental maturity or capacity to lead anyone out of a paper bag. That's really obvious. Like,
Well, I thought the thing was that this is they are really hurting for people, and they are putting
Yeah.
people in leadership positions who are just not ready because they have
Yeah.
no one else.
Because the war's
Right.
been dragging on, so like they had to have more Jonin, even if they're just 12 years old.
Like they specifically say, we are the weakest we've ever been. We've been in forever.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
say that?
I think,
Yeah, he did say like the Leaf is at its lowest military strength or whatever at that point.
I do think they could have, like, this would have benefited from getting clubbed over the head with, I think. Like, that was the wrong thing to be subtle with.
This actually reminds me of some upcoming flashbacks I think that are kind of similar, where they it's like things that they probably should have introduced earlier, but because I guess he maybe didn't think all of this through, he has to introduce it, now kind of in a rushed fashion type of thing.
Right.
So, like I can think of a couple of events up ahead that kind of are somewhat similar.
So regarding shows that definitely don't have a problem not thinking things through far enough ahead, I've been waiting for like fucking. I've basically been waiting the entire time One Piece was on Toonami for this.
Before we get to One Piece, though, I want to make a comment on that in terms of like authors kind of winging it, so to speak. This is a topic that actually came up in the BCT a while back in terms of like why it feels that like so many shonen manga, like the author just like makes you on the fly. And it's something I thought about was that I think for a lot of authors, a lot of them, especially in the big magazines, don't know how long their series are going to last and know if they're going to catch on. So for a lot of them, they either don't plan that many years ahead of time because if their series, fails to catch on, that's pretty much it because they sold the rights to it and whatnot. They can't really like restart it somewhere else.
Right.
So for a lot of them, they plan like maybe a year in advance, 2 years in advance, and then if the series becomes a hit, then like okay, and I can continue it, but now I have to make up more story. And I think that's a big issue a lot of manga authors fall into.
Right.
It's definitely the issue with serializations.
Well, like
in how it's done. I remember actually I was doing research on the Black Lagoon, manga thing, and apparently he's got no idea how it ends. So
I mean, you should at least have an idea of how your series ends. Which is because that's like the most important part.
I remember reading at one point that, if Naruto had failed to catch on, the end of the Zabuza arc would have been the end of the series.
Well, I guess, like, in a sense, Oda makes up as much on the fly that Kishimoto does, in a sense. The thing is, Oda is just more skilled at maybe setting some, like, Oda is known for setting seeds early and then kind of coming back to them later, but like he probably doesn't have everything planned out. Like I know exactly how I'm going to come back to this later, but he kind of is. He's skilled in kind of making things up and having it fit and having it work as he makes it up. Where like Kubo or Kishimoto are a little bit, they have some other habits that don't work as well. But they're both making things up as they go, in a sense.
But in terms of Oda, it's also that he actually does sort of know where the series is going in terms of its ending.
I do think, yes, you should have an idea of how to end it.
Yeah.
You may not know how to get there, like all the different steps how to get there.
Right.
But you should have an idea how you want to end it at the very last episode or chapter.
Right. I mean, in terms of One Piece, apparently, like whenever he gets a new editor, he'll sort of sit them down and, map out the path to the, like a vague path, and then what the ending is, and then, the editor apparently comes away crying tears of like beauty or whatever. He's like, "You're a genius."
I had heard, maybe this is a rumor, but I had heard that he like told the ending of One Piece to like a kid who had cancer or something.
I believe that's fake. Because obviously.
It's fake? Okay, alright.
Oh, that's too bad. That would have been awesome. Because as far as I know,
if it was real, they probably wouldn't let that out.
No. Well, I mean, as far as we know, the only people that know it are him and anyone who's ever been his editor.
Can you imagine having that knowledge?
Seriously, like
I would have an easier time
with missile
reading
codes.
The secret presidential book of secrets on aliens than keeping that. I would be able to keep that under wraps easier than I would be the ending of One Piece.
Well, I'm sure there's people other than George R.R. Martin who know the ending to that book series.
Well, I mean, most people have guessed, sort of what the end game looks like a long time ago, apparently.
Are you talking about One Piece or
Game of Thrones?
Because we definitely have an idea of what the end game of One Piece looks like. An idea.
Well, I mean, not as much as like Game of Thrones, though.
Right.
I mean, I do just kind of talking about if people can predict an ending or not. I do think, just because an ending might be predicted, like you can tell
doesn't
where
mean it's
going.
bad.
No, like, do you want it just coming out of nowhere and being nonsensical?
Exactly.
Or do you want, like, I think there's actually a spoiler thread on GAF today, like people being like, upset about narrative self-spoiling themselves. Like, no, that's called
reading along.
yeah,
that's called stories progressing in a logical manner.
What does that even mean? That doesn't make sense.
Right.
People at this point, I'm convinced that most spoiler culture is basically, I just want to be completely shocked at what just happened every single second of what I'm watching.
I mean, there are people that do feel like, oh, if there's no twist in the story, then what's the point of reading it?
I mean,
but you know,
I don't mean to say like it has to be, you know, like you can see it coming from
Bleach.
a mile away, but like
it doesn't have to be Bleach either.
It has to be a balance. But anyways, so
One Piece, episode 353, A Man's Promise Never Dies to the Friend Waiting Under the Distant Sky. So, Seda, me and B-Dubs were there last week. You called it.
I called it, but it was kind of awkward. Well, first of all, you guys teased it like it was something that I would have known about, and I was kind of, you know, thinking through the series in chronological order, like, okay, what has happened? What are things I know about, and what are things that could be expanded upon? And actually, like during the last One Piece episode, someone mentioned in a thread like it was talking about something else entirely, but they mentioned
it was a scene where Oz was eating the fish, the giant salted fish, and it was the same fish from Sanji's filler in not filler, but scenes in Logetown.
Roguetown. Is that the Viz version?
No, Roguetown is definitely the Viz version.
Or the 4Kids version. Well, someone said in the thread, I think it was Sigma Sonic, was like, is that the fish from Logetown? I'm like, and I didn't remember. I'm like, fish from Logetown? Do you mean Laboon? Oh, I wonder.
And then everything just connected, and he was like,
oh. No, let me just say one thing though. Is there more to this backstory? Okay, I kind of feel like I knew at some point we were going to meet Laboon's master or whatever, but it could have been really anybody, like any pirate that has been gone for a long time. So the fact that it is Brook, so far that's not that impressive to me, because it could have been anybody. Like, oh, this person's been away from home for a long time. Maybe they're Laboon's master, or maybe someone else is. So right now, the fact that Brook is tied to Laboon, it doesn't feel like it's something that, like, as soon as that's revealed, it's like, oh, then that makes perfect sense, because it could have been someone else.
Right.
So but it's the length of time between when Laboon was a thing and now, you honestly forget that Laboon was a thing.
Yeah, that's the impressive part, but like the fact that Brook is Laboon's master and not someone else, like, I kind of feel like, is there more there that make it maybe the connection a little bit stronger? Like, now I understand why he doesn't want his afro to get destroyed, though. He wants Laboon to recognize him.
Right. So, there's a whole backstory to that relationship that we get a couple of episodes on it. I think it's a couple of episodes on it later on in the arc, and it's just it's a gut punch.
And I skipped through the thread a little bit, but apparently, so this is something that the anime did not make clear, but apparently Brook was designed a long time ago.
Yes.
His idea was in concept, even though he didn't show up until now.
I mean, I believe, we were talking about planning, but I believe Oda had most, if not all the future Straw Hats planned at least somewhat in advance.
Yeah.
So Zonic.
What? We're talking One Piece?
Yes, we're talking One Piece. Your Naruto Shippuden sandwich break is over. So, Zonic. So I was really waiting for the thread reaction to this reveal. I was expecting oh, Goda! And then the actual reaction from people who hadn't seen the show. I realized, no! 4Kids ruined it again!
Because they turned Laboon into an iceberg.
So was that kind of why... So, did you remember that Laboon existed, Zonic?
Nope, because I watched the 4Kids version.
Well, for me, actually, I started watching One Piece back in college with fan subs, So actually, I had seen the Laboon episode, but it's been like 8 something years or something. So like,
Yeah.
I recall that Laboon is a thing that exists, but I don't have any like emotional connection to Laboon, the character, anymore. I don't know if I had one however many years ago, but at this point in time, I don't really have any connection to him as a character. I just know it as a concept. So like, I feel I mentioned it a little bit in the last time I was here in terms of like, due to cultural osmosis, I knew that there was some sort of relationship between Brooke and Laboon, but I didn't really know the details. So this was just kind of confirming something that I kind of knew from hearsay, but it doesn't really strike me in any emotional way just because I'm so disconnected from Laboon at this point. So it's like, oh, here's that weird thing that was hinted at or like tied between two disparate parts of the narrative, and now it's confirmed. Okay, that's the thing.
I also feel like that maybe this isn't meant to be super like emotionally attaching or whatever. Like,
No,
because
not
Laboon was only like 2 episodes or something, right?
They'll leave that for later.
Well,
Yeah.
Laboon was only like a 2 episode thing, right?
Yeah.
And like, sure, it was sad. Like, oh, here's a whale that hasn't met its master. But like, I feel like we didn't know him long enough to really care, and also we haven't really Brooke kind of on the same point. Like, we feel like I kind of feel like I don't really care so much about this relationship between Brooke and Laboon. I do think it's impressive in some regard that we're making this callback to hundreds and hundreds of episodes ago.
Right.
And that kind of just kind of reinforces like this kind of small world feeling of One Piece, how everything is connected somehow. But like I feel like it's not very. This isn't very like emotionally engaging, but I also feel like that's not really supposed to be either.
This was just the twist. This was just the twist portion.
Yeah,
the
it's kind of
emotional
like
engagement portion will come later.
When
Yeah,
they,
there's still
when
a
they
Brooke
meet up again.
flashback. No, there's still a Brooke flashback coming up, sort of later on in the arc. That
I mean, spoilers, but the Brooke Laboon meetup is like actual, literally endgame, like last 5 chapters of One Piece thing, because they have to go around the world to meet again. They have to like get all the way across the world.
So okay, so that I guess somewhat reassuring because I've been told for so long that like okay, this thing is it's so heart wrenching, it's so dramatic, oh my, you won't believe it.
Well, this wasn't this was just the reveal.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Not the heart wrenching dramatic part yet.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like
That's
I'm aware
later.
that they have some sort of relationship, but I don't have any details filled in, so I wasn't sure if this was the okay, here's where the stuff goes down, but it seems like that's for a later time.
yeah,
So
that's
next episode, no spoilers because next episode is literally almost entirely just a re-airing of the old Laboon arc. Because even in the best situation, it was like 8 years between them, and in our case, it's literally the first time that stuff is going to be airing in any original form on American TV. Because 4Kids went and replaced Laboon with an iceberg.
So coming up is a re-airing of the Straw Hat encounter with Laboon.
they
It's
condensed
basically
it
an
a lot.
episode that is mostly flashback to that arc.
Okay, but not the Brook encounter of Laboon, but rather Luffy's encounter of Laboon. Okay.
That's much later on, and
That's the end of Thriller Bark.
it's also when your heart drops through your chest.
Right. But 4Kids, in their infinite fucking wisdom,
And
they
it is
just wanted to get to Chopper so badly, they went and replaced Laboon with an iceberg the Straw Hats blew up.
They just murdered a whale.
No, they murdered an iceberg. The whale was just completely removed. Yes.
They also got rid of the weird old man.
You did read that right. They literally removed the entire backstory of a future main character. They couldn't have known it, but they did.
Was that episode had that episode not aired yet in Japan when that was done?
Oh no. Not even close. I think the Thriller Bark in the manga was like 2007.
Yeah, something like that.
But it's just another, notably ridiculous 4Kids edit that would have really fucked them over in the long run. I guess we all determined that they would have, if they had gotten here, they would have just said, "We never cut that."
Yeah, I mean that'd probably be the smartest thing to do considering the situation. I mean, obviously not cutting it at all would be smartest, but like just do
Right.
it. It's funny though.
So, yeah. So, once again, 4Kids ruined something in One Piece. And it went beyond just their original airing.
Oh yes. Okay.
So, that's
You want to talk
basically-
about Parasite?
No.
No.
But they
was
killed
this
her.
Was this week's
It-
episode where that dumb woman died?
Yes, it was.
Which
Yes.
episode are you talking about?
The one where what's
Kana,
her name gets
where
stabbed
she's-
through the chest.
Oh no! It's happening again.
Okay.
I mean, there are a lot of not well-written women characters in this show, but not a lot of them die.
Yeah, you're right. It actually is the only episode where a notable female character dies.
No, there's another one.
Kamio Reiko died.
Well,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
that's not a situation where a stupid notable female character dies.
Which
I
is
mean-
still kind of.
her death was kind of like, come on, son, really? I mean,
That was my.
she was definitely the best written female character in the series, but her death was still really like come on, son, kind of death.
It was like, yeah, that was. I think that was actually my response when it happened. Where it was basically, like, "Come on, son."
So, I don't know about you, B-dubs, but I'm just glad I can stop hinting at this One Piece thing.
Oh,
It's been killing me inside.
And I can start hitting the
Seriously?
other One Piece thing, and the other One Piece thing, and the other One Piece thing.
Yeah, now we just decide to hint
and the
at
other
more.
One Piece.
It's a
thing.
never-ending cycle of hinting at the next big One Piece thing.
Like the next big One Piece thing, which is just awesome.
I mean,
That's also the One Piece thing after that.
yeah, there's well, next arc there's like 15 big One Piece things.
What is the arc after Thriller Bark?
780
it's-
Archipelago.
Okay. I've heard of all these
Yeah.
arc names. I don't know the order.
So
Is it-
yeah,
Yeah.
still not Fishman Island,
Oh,
which will
God,
become
man.
which will just become a running joke of they're still not at Fishman Island.
I heard that arc was kind of shitty when they actually
It
got
wasn't.
to the island.
It
Fishman
wasn't-
Island wasn't the best One Piece arc.
It had an interesting like theme running through it, but everyone, they wanted to see everyone have cool fights after the. Well, but everyone didn't get what they wanted out of the arc, but looking back, it set up a lot of things. It did some cool like things thematically. Like it wasn't the worst arc in the world, but it wasn't what everyone wanted at the time.
Right. And so, yep. So now I guess we just start hinting at them. Yeah. I guess we have to decide what we're going to hint at, B-dubs.
I already know what I'm going to hint at.
I mean, you could be hinting at something completely different. Hinting.
No, it's a big Robin moment.
Okay, sure. Let's go with that one.
You know the one I'm talking about.
I know the one. I know the one you're talking about.
It's in this arc, right?
It's in this arc.
Yes, it is.
I think it's this year.
It should be. I mean, I think the arc ends, like most of it should be done this year.
Right. So, does anyone else have any final thoughts on anything? Zonic?
No.
Oh, hang on. let me-
To go back to someone saying about the emotional impact between Brooke and Laboo,
Laboon.
Laboon.
because I get what they were trying to go for. Because like way back after we finished any lobby, we got to see Cody again. That was a real shocker because we got to spend a good amount of time with Cody, and I actually remember him when I was watching the 4Kids version when I was like 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And with, like they said, we only barely got to know the whale, so I should have felt something, but again, because 4Kids ruined it, and the fact it was supposed to be, 2 episodes?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what Oda was trying to
But
do.
Kobe was only in 3 episodes.
Was he serious?
True.
Remember? It's like the first episode, and then one episode, like, they're only,
Then
the
the
Morgan
Zoro
thing is only
arc.
2 episodes.
Yeah,
Wait.
he was the original episode where Luffy fights the
Yeah.
fat lady, and then the 2 Zorro episodes, and then he's gone.
Yeah.
Is he at Logtown, or am I imagining that?
No,
Nope.
no, that was
Weird.
Well, then,
So,
but,
yeah.
then, but then there was like a 2-episode thing
yeah.
where we
He
saw
had a
him.
cover, a
with
bunch of
Bart.
cover stories that they turned into an episode.
Yeah, although they only, adapted 2 cover stories, and honestly, I wish they would have done more of those instead of filler, but instead of the filler they did, let's say.
Yeah, that's asking too much.
Didn't 4Kids like keep some of the filler despite like wanting to get to Chopper so
Yeah,
bad?
Yes, they did. Which is like the most ludicrous thing. We're going to keep in the we want to get to Chopper, but we're going to keep in the filler. We're going to cut out the stuff that's not filler. And
Sounds
Who the
good.
fuck- I think 4Kids in that day they were just, all,
it was
injecting
madness.
heroin. that must be the...
That had a Brooklyn accent.
Oh my god, if you go back to the Sanji voice in the 4Kids dub will forever be the worst thing ever.
You mean best thing ever?
No.
That Sada's right.
Okay, well, at least the Usopp voice in that dub is the worst thing ever. Concretely. They basically just decided, okay, so what if Usopp was a screaming, hyperactive clown all of the time?
Sounds like a game winner plan.
I think that would work.
Anyway, we've played everything out, I think.
Oh, and the apparently the Toonami panel is at 11 o'clock today.
So
So I was
1 hour
wrong.
from this recording.
Yeah.
Now, Funimation is holding their panel right now, and they said a surprise announcement. And I was wondering.
Oh, I should look that up.
It has
Hang on.
to be time.
By checking their Twitter account, they don't think they've said anything. So,
I'm checking it right now. Let's see. They got the Seraph of the End Collector's Edition. It comes with stickers.
Oh yeah, stickers. Everyone loves stickers, right?
Yeah, and some art stuff that really, how could you live without it? There's a Beerus thingy. One of them pop things.
Funko Pops.
Yeah, one of them. No, pop animation thingies. Like them little things with the big heads.
Yeah, aren't those called Funko Pops or Funko Pops or something?
I got no idea what the hell they call them. I know I see them at the Barnes & Noble when I buy books. Because
Anyway,
that's the only bookstore that exists. Oh, they got Chopper ones.
There's apparently there's Chopper everything in Japan.
Oh yeah, they love Chopper.
Love Chopper. Anyway, I think we're done. Right? Nobody else has anything to say.
Not that I can think of.
Okay. So that'll do it for this
Actually, there's one
episode.
thing I want to say, which was maybe about the One Piece episode. I never really understood why. I know they had to keep the bodies of the people they took as shadows from safes, because if they died, the shadows would expire and then the zombies would expire. But instead of putting the people like Zoro, Sanji, and Luffy back in the boat, I never really understood why they didn't just lock them up in some secure jail somewhere.
Because
Yeah,
they're
break
still
out.
pretty powerful and they break out.
Yeah,
But isn't
they're
it them being on the loose?
No, because the idea is that they break the rudder on the ship or whatever and just put it afloat in the Florian Triangle, and you get a Brook situation where it's just like, well,
well, I think I brought this up a while ago. Like they need the original bodies to survive.
right, but they can't keep them
so
there.
so they can't die of starvation, or they can't die of their light when they're like, now they're prone to being killed by light.
Right.
So basically, they just hope they survive in this dark, like, area of the sea where there is no sunlight, I guess.
Yeah.
the Gecko Moria's plan is not the most well
Yeah,
thought out.
I think a part of this is supposed to be that Gecko Moria is not,
A smart man.
he's not doing this as smartly as he should be,
Right.
and leaving Brook alone and leaving the Straw Hats alone are going to ultimately be his downfall, obviously.
Well,
Right.
it's the case for all of One Piece's villains that their plan was going smoothly until Luffy bumblefucked his way into the picture.
But it kind of seems like it's just not a very smart plan. Like, I'm going to steal their shadows, and then I'm going to let them do whatever they want. They just have to survive and not bother me.
Well,
Like,
I mean, from what little backstory we know about him, like, he basically got wrecked by one of the four emperors.
Yeah,
and, you know,
and also he knows that Luffy has a high bounty or whatever, so he knows he's dangerous. So, like, do you really think just leaving him alone is going to?
Well, I mean, ideally he's supposed to be like, asleep for
Adrift
2
in
days.
the Florian Triangle. Ideally, the situation is that the very powerful people are just adrift in the Florian Triangle forever.
Yeah, and also somehow able to survive.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they just got to survive. Well, they just got to survive strong enough for Moria to make it all the way back to the New World.
Well, Moria has all these zombies, and I was kind of under the impression that like he's been building these up for, a long time. Maybe
But it's only been
not
like 10-ish years.
But like, does that mean there's like all these like crews out there in the triangle just kind of wandering around, somehow not dead but not doing anything?
There's a bunch of people on the island, though.
Yeah. Well, just got to remember that like for each zombie we see, which we see a bunch of them, obviously exaggerated a bit, there's at least one person that is out there alive that shadow came from.
Right, but also most of these zombies aren't worth a shit, you know?
Yeah, it's like only really
the general zombies.
On one. No, not even the general.
The general zombies. They're so powerful.
Before just getting trashed pretty easily.
They haven't been trashed, have they?
I mean, weren't Luffy and Frankie and Robin just knocking him around for a good while?
Yeah, the problem was they were knocking him around pretty easily, but they just weren't staying down.
But now
there's no salt weakness, so it should be a non-issue, basically.
Right, and it will be a non-issue.
But the general zombies are too strong.
But it's just a joke about how the general zombies. It's like, oh no, the general zombies, and they have this super dramatic scene where they get out of this chapel of cemetery, like the grave chapel, and then the general zombies.
I love that scene.
It's probably because they're attached to Absalom, and everything that Absalom does sucks.
Yeah, Absalom is just a moron.
He's far and away the least liked major henchman in One Piece.
That's putting it mildly.
Like on a scale, the scale goes from Mr. 2 to Absalom.
Did they ever explain what happens to his face?
So it's a blink and you'll miss it thing, but back when Nami, Chopper, and Usopp were rolling through the forest in the carriage, they saw a lion with a man face. Like I said, it's a blink and you'll miss it. He basically switched his old human ugly face for a lion's, face.
Oh, he did it just because he thought he looked cooler with a lion's face?
No, he did it because he thought he looked hideous with his human face.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. With a lion's face.
So he's basically like, oh, this will be better.
Wait, is that what we assume, or what's actually told to us?
I mean, there's a guy with a lion face and a lion with a human face. Connect the dots.
All right, so are we done?
I think so. We've played everything out that we possibly can. Thank you, Zonic.
Yep.
Glad to see you glad to see it was good internet stability tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, we won't get 5,000 views like we did last time, but
wait, how do we get 5,000 views?
It was just Zonic was it was the episode where Zonic. It wasn't 5,000 views. It was like 50, but it was the episode.
Give or take a factor,
Give or take an order of magnitude or two.
Yes.
I know, Seda, that your PhD mind just exploded there, but. But anyway, thanks, Seda.
Yep.
Thanks, Crocodile.
No problem.
And B-Dubs, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week for episode 17. Goodbye.